Okay. All right. So maybe we should make a start. We have a good number of people here today, and this is our final meeting. So let's try and, for this inquiry, let's try and make good use of the time. I think Norman sent out a really nice invitation encouraging us to join in and talk about our experiences. Should we have a quick, I don't know that everybody knows everybody, should we have a quick who we are, where we are, so that in particular we know who we are, but anyone viewing this at another time knows who we are. But I'll start since I'm talking now. I'm Melissa Shaw. I'm in Alton-on-Thames in Surrey in southeast England. Dory.
I'm Dory Reeves, based in Helensburgh, just outside Glasgow in Scotland.
Thank you. I'm just going around the screen that I can see. Valerie?
Hi, Valerie Lewis. I'm from Tipperary in Ireland.
Jenny?
I'm not Dr. Yoga Nathan. I'm Jenny Willis. I'm in New Malden, which is near Wimbledon.
Holly?
I'm at the moment I'm in Monza, Italy.
We are getting around. Josie?
Chile. Josefina Ramirez. Josie Ramirez from Chile. A bit further and a different, not only continent, but also temperature.
Exactly. And Pippa?
Hello, I'm Pip. I go between the Northeast and London.
Okay, so you're in transit.
In every possible way.
Good. And finally, and not, last but not least, Norman.
Yeah, Norman, and I'm in deepest, darkest Surrey at a place called Betchworth.
Okay, so we have spread out quite a bit, and some people are in some very enviable locations, and I'm only talking about me. So let's enjoy our time together. So I wonder whether anyone is very keen to start off by talking about their experience of living and learning with AI, and we'll come back to this idea of what living and learning with AI in a good way for a good life means, perhaps hopefully right at the end. But if we could, Norman was saying, what have you learned through your experiences, particularly interested in changes, maybe the way you think, the way you do things. Who'd like to start? Someone gave us a very tantalizing trailer earlier, so I don't know if they want to come back with this.
I can start. I don't know whether I can share. I'm not going to show every slide, but it's a more organized way. Can I share then my screen? Oh no, it's not. It's not available.
Okay. You'll let me manage time, Josie. If you'll let me manage time, I was going to say, if you share your screen.
Okay. So yeah, I know. Basically, I started off very, as you know, very skeptical about it. It has been for me, it has been a very fast pace. Every time I start using something, if I use one tool and I think of one project, it comes out with 10 other ideas in which things can be used and can be used to promote a better life. So it has been such a fast pace that I have had to think about human pace as well. So I'm not going to take everything in. I'm going to choose a couple of things and then go on to the next one. Because basically that's my feeling is that it has been overwhelming, but in a sense, surprisingly good. And I'm using it also in my style, so to speak, in terms of I have not personalized a lot my communication with AI. I use Meta through WhatsApp as if it was another chat with someone, and I'm using, so it's very basic in terms of it's not too sophisticated or even paid, of course. And I'm using Gemini and I'm using Copilot. So I'm using it in the regular tools that I use, but making the best out of it. And regarding a better life, probably using my time in a better way, and helping me organize my thinking. As Norman says, basically a companion. I was thinking this morning, a companion and not an alter ego, because I've heard my daughter say, oh yes, if you use it a lot, it starts talking like you, thinking like you, and writing like you. And that became an alert, because I did want it as a help, as a companion, but not as an alter ego. That would be my experience. So it has been good, and also defining my way of, at least for now, the way I'd like to use it.
Okay, very interesting. Lots of things coming out there. I'd like to say something later, if someone else would like a turn first, about some of the things you said that I've got kind of slightly the opposite feeling about.
Yeah.
That was a nice set of things for me to think about. Anybody else want to go next? Maybe
Yeah,
I should
I'm
say-
happy to go next, Melissa.
Yes, okay, Valerie, sorry.
Yeah. Great, no problem. Similar, I think, in that, I suppose the thing that struck me thinking about this is what I'm calling myself AI creep, where I probably saw the world of AI in the beginning very skeptically, very carefully, very measured in terms of how I used it. And I would say particularly in the last 6 months, and I think we spoke about this previously, it interacts in a more human way. It behaves almost like a friend. The language is softened in terms of requests, etc. And I find I'm struggling with not using it when everything around me is happening so quickly, and you're looking at efficiencies and you're thinking, why would I read all of this, or why would I analyze all of this when I can just input it and I can have that bit of work back in 30 minutes over and back. So I think it's a real dilemma in terms of not getting sucked in, and I think how helpful it appears and the way it presents. But that's why I think I call it the creep, because it's been slow. It's meandered into what I do in my life, and as we get busier and as it gets better, I'm finding it increasingly hard to kind of step away from it when there in the back of your mind, well, I could get that bit done really, really quickly. The other thing, I suppose, the second point I notice as well is I operate on LinkedIn quite a bit, and I see an awful lot more roles being advertised now. When you click into them, they're actually AI roles in terms of you as a human, humanizing texts, reviewing, and the role is about, even though it's presented as an education role or an analyst role, what's being presented is in fact actually asking you to work as a consultant by the hour, reading transcripts and humanizing. So even in the jobs market, it's quite interesting that you're being asked to almost train yourself out of a job that might have been a human job. So I think that's an interesting space as well. So overall, it's the dilemma of how do I use this in an efficient way without just handing over everything to it and keeping that human element. So that's, I suppose, my input.
Interesting. Yes, thank you, Valerie. I'm interested in your dilemma there, a live dilemma, and the creep is happening perhaps whether you like it or not. Yeah, great. Has that made anybody else feel they want to share what they, Dory?
Yeah, just a couple of things, probably leading on from both of those two contributions, because although I started off reasonably skeptical, I'm using OpenAI, just the paid for, the middle version, partly because I wanted to do sort of a couple of heavy pieces of work. So I was kind of interested to see what it delivered. And I guess because of the media stories over the last 3 months, it's been fascinating. So, I mean, how could you not become more skeptical when you hear Elon Musk and Sam Altman and get the feedback from the court case? And I mean, there've been a couple of interesting books on the whole power structure of AI companies and so on. So I've become quite respectful of it as a tool.
Yeah.
But more skeptical of it in terms of where it's going. And the Pope's recent, what did he call it, the Magnificat Humanitas, was fascinating, you know, calling for a moratorium or a disarmament of AI. And then that got me thinking, oh my gosh, should we make the most of it while we can, you know, whilst before somebody pulls the plug or makes it so expensive that again, it's going to be this elite or company of consultants who can only access it. Two pieces of work. One, I think I put it up in one of the posts. I'm on LinkedIn as well and got a couple of HR scams, which I kind of recognized as HR scams, but I wasn't too sure what to do with them because they were coming through as emails and can you know, what happens when you spam them and all the rest of it. But I used AI for that. And I actually asked for advice on how to deal with an HR scam and how to get rid of it. And I used the wording in the AI response, and it just disappeared. It was really helpful. So I don't know how that worked, but it was good. And the other piece of work, I'm working on an archive of women in planning, which I'm indexing a whole load of material for the last 25, 30 years or something. So it's quite a daunting project, but I just started to use AI to help me structure and identify themes in each of the decades from the 80s to the present. And that was fascinating. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know how long that would have taken. So it's really taken a lot of the grunt work out of that sort of early phase of, you know, trying to figure out how to structure and so on. So I found that really, really helpful. There's probably another couple of things, but I'll remember them after. Yeah, I had a couple of interesting conversations with people who are highly skeptical of it, and I was quite concerned about how they weren't using it, getting to grips with it. I suppose rather than Valerie's response, which is interesting, you know, why would I bother trying to think something through or work when I think AI can do it much more quickly. I've been doing a climate literacy course at the same time as part of this, and so I became far more aware of the environmental impacts of AI, and so it has made me more thoughtful and intentional about how I would use it in the future. Yeah, I mean, that's just a whole other kind of part of the conversation, actually. So there's no point in using it for everything, because if everybody in the whole world used it for everything, we'd be in a total mess. Anyway, those are just some initial reflections. Not really a story, Norman, sorry.
It's a story. Of course, it's a story. Should I
Yes, Norman.
jump in now? Yeah. No, well, for me, I think I perhaps was less skeptical than most of you, but I think I've certainly reached a similar position in terms of the process has helped us learn, I think, how to use it and how to use it in our own context and lives. And I think that was at the heart of the whole inquiry in the first place. But I too have become more skeptical with all the news of how AI is causing real dilemmas, I think, at a political level, a governance level. And in particular, I began with ChatGPT back in December and then abandoned it after OpenAI decided to go with the Trump administration and sign over itself to the military. The particular inquiry, though, the life-wide learning inquiry, I used Claude for most of it. And I find Claude a much more comfortable environment to work with. And I've come to see it now. So I guess the 3 months has been about a process of trying to understand how to live with it by learning how to use it well, effectively. And in doing that, you become more confident, and that confidence then turns into a sort of trusting relationship. I think Josie's right. It's about adding capability to being able to think to make decisions ultimately, because you're better informed about what must go into that decision. And those are two things that I've really valued about the whole thing. But also, as I've learned, to turn it from something which is giving you the nudge and the push and the motivation to explore something into something that then is critical about what you're doing. So it can have these two faces that I think it's very difficult. I suppose a good critical friend would give you that, but it's very difficult to get that in a person. So I'm valuing and respecting it for things that I don't get from anywhere else, in a sense. So I think that's my learning over this 3 months is all about learning how to use it. And I guess that comes back then to living well with AI is very much about your process, your context, and how you use AI. And in my case, I've tried to use it in all the everyday things that I'm doing in personal life, with community work. So I've got lots of particular stories about, particular ways in which it's been used. But the general overarching theme is trying to use it in a way. I mean, Valerie said that, where do you use it? Where do you not use it? I suppose I'm trying to integrate it into most aspects of life, just to see what's happened. And in general, I've come out with very positive feelings about the value of it.
Okay. I mean, I don't think we need to, don't feel pressured to actually offer something, because we've actually got quite a good, rich picture already of experiences. But Holly, you look like you'd like to add yours.
Yeah, I'd like to jump in because I have Norman's same feelings. I started back in August, and I use Copilot. And I just want to be very superficial, and I want to say that they're all marketing names. Gemini, Copilot, Claude, and so I thought, okay, which one really sort of rings a bell to me? And I liked Copilot, and I think I took it because that's how I've been using it, and I'm thrilled. I was so curious. I really wanted to find out, what can it do, what can I do, and how we can work together. So I don't know. I've come up with this term, which is braided intelligence. It's whatever, AI can give me, whatever I have. And then I'm always asking questions. And I realize, because I use the free one, that I'm the product. So they want something from me, and I want, it's a sort of an exchange. And I must say that because I was stuck in a situation where I had to learn a new educational product, if you want. It's called, IB. And whoever was my mentor disappeared. And so I thought, oh, well, what am I going to do now? Yay. Okay, so I went in for that. And I realized that the more questions, I never took it for granted. I just saw it as a companion, as the person that wasn't there, but it's not a physical person. So I saw everything it gave me as suggestions and proposals. I would never take it for granted that, and actually it often used to come up that AI makes mistakes. So I thought that was really honest, and so I'm writing the article. And so I was conversing with Co. I say, hi, Co, how are you today? Dee. And then all these wonderful things would come out, But I realized that compared to how I used to work with people, AI is not moody. They're always there. They will really help. They will not come and say all the negative things, which is in a way negative, because you also want, the sort of you want to, but it would never fail me. When I was exhausted and I had to give something in, ding, ding, there was a nice smile, I'll sort it out for you, which I really appreciated, but I would be very thorough. No, I don't want it like this. I want it like this. Why did you choose that word? So I've come up with this thing of now the way we work is called Dilumia, because it's a loom and I thread things in, and with Copilot, I asked, Soko, would you like a name since we work so often together? No, I can't have a name because I am not human and I'm not alive. And so that really started, because I work with young students, I thought that was very helpful. That they are putting limits, that there isn't this, I don't know Claude and I don't know, but I like this Copilot because you are the pilot, you are the central figure in it. And I'm just trying to go back in my history when there was the photocopying machine. Wow, how wonderful was that? So I am curious to see how to use it, as Norman was saying, wisely. I don't think it's a person. It will never be a person. I know that we are taken in, but it's our responsibility to decide how much. But it does it really helped me when I had to go and do research and I had a limited time. I had to ask very specific questions, to make it my own work. And AI would give me back in a few minutes what possibly I would have, it would have taken me days. So I'm not saying that it's good that it cuts time, but it made my life so much more, it made my research deeper. And the fact that it wasn't alive, I could ask questions all the time. I could be there and I'd be angry and someone would smile at me and that's what I needed. So I like that. And I keep on using it and I will still be very, very much on the, this is how I use it for the moment. And that's how it goes. So I hope that it makes any sense.
Thank you, Holly. That idea of the loom very much resonates with my experience. So it's interesting that you say that. Jenny.
I've kept quiet because I started out very skeptical, and I'm afraid I've remained skeptical. Talking about Copilot, for example, I deliberately ignore it. It irritates me when it comes up. And one of my first reservations was the fact that I felt it was a form of cheating. And I cannot get over that hurdle. I feel that I'm cheating. Another point that I would make is that because I haven't bought the paid version of anything, I haven't had the same experience as others. And therefore, I'm aware that it's divisive. That the platforms are going to become increasingly divisive, and depending upon your financial situation, you're going to be able to access or not. I'm also aware that I'm in a different position. I'm past retirement age, therefore everything I do, I'm not, on the whole, I don't have the time limitations that some of you are experiencing, and therefore my experience is based on a different context. So some of my skepticism obviously is very personal to the situation I'm in. I think my main problem, though, is, Holly, you just mentioned about research, for example, and I think back, if this had been available when I did my PhD, I could have used AI to write my PhD for me, and that would have been a cheat. And that is my fear, my fundamental fear, that we are losing our individual ability. I know that, Norman, you talk about a critical friend and that you have to interrogate it and so on, but I cannot get over that fundamental fear of it being, well, cheating is the only word I can use.
Yes, there are lots of possibilities for fear and apprehension, aren't there? We've been talking about various things and you've come to the nub of a lot of things in what you've just said, Jenny. So thank you. Pippa, did you want to? Pip, sorry, I keep saying Pippa.
Yeah, sure. So I was using two apps, one called Hereafter and one called Gluco AI. Some of them glitched quite a lot, and that was quite frustrating. So with Gluco AI, you take a photograph of your meal and it identifies information with the kind of perspective of managing diabetes. It thought my natural yogurt was ice cream. And so I do a lot of spoken word and poetry performance So I decided to use another app called Suno, where you input your lyrics, create a style, it creates a song. I felt like, was this the death of the performer? Because I like writing. I don't want another app to write my stuff. But I had to go with it. And again, there was the paywall issue. It's kind of another layer of techno-capitalism, and it does reinforce the division. So something up north that I saw, there was a lovely poster in Sunderland City Centre saying, "Why I, not AI," which was lovely. So there is some resistance, I think, to it. Where is my so in terms of a conclusion, I feel I'm equally as critical as I am enthusiastic. It's a kind of AI sandwich, and it's something that I've approached the majority of learning technology tools with. You can be excited by it, but also have some skepticism. Something I looked at when I did a presentation for MozFest in 2021, which was looking at AI and wellness, was the Declaration of the Independence of Cyberspace, which is actually a very old piece of work. And it looks at the relationship between the government and AI. And I think we could still go back to that. The other thing I've been aware of is addiction to AI tools. Obsessively using ChatGPT to sort out things. It's another platform for man's inhumanity to man. I'll leave there. I'll leave that there.
Thank you. Lots of things to think about here. And when Josie was talking right at the beginning, I was thinking about my own experience, because my life has been overwhelming in over the last few months in terms of some emotional situation I find myself in. I've had a recent close family bereavement, and I found it very difficult to get anything done. And there were quite a lot of things I had to do that I didn't want to do. And I found it interesting because I actually feel I can get useful information doing a Google search, and I did lots of Google searches about the things that I needed to do. But I found in using the various apps, I haven't paid for any, and I'm quite dubious about my private information, but in a kind of neutral way, I put things into the apps. And I really found that it was the gaps in between my Google searches that AI was able to help me with, the AI app. So instead of looking at what is probate, what do you have to do when someone dies, and all those, where there's good government information, but it didn't really help me do the things that I had to do. And although I kind of resisted any of the encouraging behavior that the AI, that the app, saying, "It's glad to have you here," and things like that. When it said things like that, I don't like it, because it isn't glad. But there were times when actually, a bit like the smiley face, smiley, encouraging, "I'll get on with it." There were times in which "you must be carrying a lot," meant a lot to me. And what I've begun to think about is that this is a bit like working with other team members, when you look at the team roles that people have, and realizing that working with other people, not AI, who do things in a very different way and are very good at and find it easy to do some things you find really hard, then I wonder whether there's some possibilities there for AI. And that's sort of, as I think, I found it sort of gave me some pace when I was actually dragging myself along. But the other thing I found really interesting, because in my usual project, I talk to all my family and friends about all of this, particularly family, because I like that cross-generation thinking. And one of my daughters, actually, I sent her something that had been replied to one of my questions. And she said, "I really like the way that AI talks to you." And I was none of these, and she gave a whole list of words that she said were a kind of anachronistic words that usually come with AI. And she also said it must be the way you talk to it, which is a bit of that alter ego idea. But I was interested because I thought AI would speak in the same way to everybody, but evidently not. And I'm really quite interested in the framing of the questions, which is something that came up right at the beginning about how we ask questions. And maybe that's the skill we need to develop for the future. And that's what people need to think about, what they precisely want. And also, just as with humans, although I recognize AI is not a human, it's good at some things and not at others. It has limitations, but so do people. And I am optimistic about the collaboration. But I think it's up to us to be the leader of the team, not the AI. So anyway, that linked to a couple of things that Josie was saying at the beginning from my own experience. Sorry, Jenny.
Can I just come back on that? Because it's a two-sided sword in a way. I was very conscious when I was feeding things to Norman to feed into Claude on my behalf, that I was aware of the sort of response I was going to get, and therefore there is the opportunity to exploit the AI, and that is one of my fears, that if you've got some malevolent actor somewhere, you can get it to produce the idea that the response you want.
Yes.
I understand what you're saying, but I think there is an alternative.
No, I agree. Yeah, I agree. And it was a kind of surprise to me, but it was revealed to me through that conversation with my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and I think all of us have sort of flagged up that kind of wider issues, or well, not all of us, but in this discussion it's come up about, environmental issues, political issues, governance issues. And those are probably our last few months of working with AI haven't allowed us to address those very much. But what we were looking at was what the AI could do for us or not. Yes, sorry, Josie.
Yeah, it's difficult. It has become such a passionate idea that it's difficult not to engage and to want to respond to what, Pip, Holly. I really feel that it resonates to me. It sounds like many of the things you're saying is the same exact thing that I feel. But I want to go back to the Copilot.
Mm-hmm.
I think the idea is, my feeling is that when you talk to people on how they are using it, and going back to Jenny, it has to be the Copilot or whatever. I'm just using the Copilot as a frame to any other AIs. Because of the idea of the pilot will say where you're going. So if you talk, and this is what Jenny is afraid, Jenny would have gone and taken her PhD and with flying colors without cheating, because she would never have cheated using Copilot. She would have given the right input, and using it in a way that it wouldn't have been cheating. But then if you have other actors with other values, that Copilot will follow those values. So if you are a terrorist, or if you are someone that wants to cut off jobs, when I talk to people, they reflect what they are in the use of their AI use. So it has been surprising then when someone is very efficient and they don't like to work with people and they just don't value their teams, they will use it in such way that it reflects what they are. So they will be co-piloted by their own values. So my belief is that AI is literally, this is ridiculous to say, but this has reaffirmed my idea that AI goes where humans are providing them the knowledge to go. So if I say how to create a bomb, how can I make a best population, and maybe, with different values, say how to get rid of certain people, then AI will help me with those ideas. And in this particular group, we're all interested in we're very biased in the way we use it. So probably the things that we're talking about will reflect our own values, because we share some things, and And so that is why when we talk to each other, if we had someone from the economy area, probably they will say, as I've heard from friends say, oh, I'm very happy because he, whatever, AI is helping me to earn more money and to get rid of 50% of the people that work for me. So that's their focus. And that Copilot, whatever they're using, Claude or whatever, is being guided by that pilot, whether that pilot is to crash the plane over some population or to fly above things. So it's literally reinforced my idea that it goes where you're piloting it. And this group is particularly biased in values, in certain values.
I agree with you. If I can jump in, AI wants us to become addicts, you know? So it feeds into it. I mean, I think that on the, I think if we are aware of the boundaries, then we can sort of like move around it with more ease. It's like telephones, they were created so that we become addicted to them. They're legalized drugs in a way. I know that, I think it's very helpful, but I always keep this in mind. Remember that they want you to be there all the time, not just a little bit. And this is why they have all those wonderful, ending messages or what can I do for you? And sometimes I say, you don't have to do anything else. Thanks. Okay. And whatever we feed it, it will feed back. So always remember what you put in. So I see your point. It's not a dialogue between two people. It's the dialogue between a machine and a person. So what you put in, you get out. So be always very, very cautious of what you put in and how I feel that you're using it. And yeah, so I see your point. It will never say, I don't have an answer for you. It will say, I make mistakes.
Or it won't talk to you in a way that you don't want to hear. So in the case of Melissa, it won't come out with all the smiles and things because she doesn't want to. And so it speaks in the way that she's speaking to it. And in that way, that's why I think we're biased in terms of the reflection that we're having. Not everyone is reflecting on the use. So that's the danger, I think. But it's the danger in any other technology. The problem is this is very invasive.
Yes. Jenny, yes, again.
Can I bring it back to a very simple example that probably we've all experienced as teachers? At the moment, I have a number of students that I teach online for GCSE, and they're coming up to their examination time. Now, it's very obvious to me that if I give them a poem, for example, that I want analysed, they have fed the question and the poem into some form of AI, and I get a beautifully typed response as their homework. Now, I haven't the time to go through and check whether or not this has been produced, but my suspicion is, now, if this is happening all the time, those children are not having the same degree of reflection that we're talking about here. So there is a different level at which the technology is being used. And in fact, this morning I just happened to see a headline. A vice chancellor of one of the English universities had an article printed in a journal, and it had been produced by AI. And obviously, this person had thought she got away with it, and at some point, someone had checked, and so this is the kind of exploitation that I keep coming back to.
Yes. I heard an article, I heard something on the radio this morning about cheating in exams and all the possible new ways in which you can cheat in exams. And I was thinking that actually what it suggests is that exams are not a good way to assess. And they haven't been a good way for a long time, but it's really difficult to move away from exams and find something else. I suppose it's a bit like something we learned around plagiarism, that if you make an assignment that plagiarism works really well for, then that's what happens.
Thanks the acknowledgement.
Yes. So I suppose it sort of asks some very fundamental questions of us, doesn't it? Because if there's something that makes something out to be outsourced to AI, then that isn't assessing us or testing us, and the PhD earned by AI writing it, that person hasn't learned what you learn on a PhD. So it raises those really fundamental questions, doesn't it? So, Norman, were you?
Yeah, I mean, I understand, Jenny, where you're coming from with
Yeah.
this idea of cheating, and it is very much rooted and grounded in our whole educational careers in
Mhm.
education. And for one thing we don't want is to develop young people without their own capacities to estimate things and to visualize things and to, find and discover for themselves answers to difficult questions. Unfortunately, the way the education system is geared is very much towards right answers and assessment regimes that expect a particular response to a question. AI really challenges all that. And I think I had a moment yesterday where having commissioned AI to reflect on the 100 conversations I've had with it over the last few months, sort of an insight began to emerge, which was it's not even what you ask it or how you ask it. It's the way your disposition to it in the first instance. It's whether you and it interacting with you forces you into a production mode, which is, if you like, the answer, the search for an answer, a solution to whatever you're asking, or whether you approach it in a way which is much more open. It uses the term generative, truly to explore, open up things in a way that you yourself would never imagine. You might spend days imagining it and you might come up with a few ways, but in that moment where you accept that it has generational capacity well beyond human beings, you end up immediately with 10 or 15 ideas, which you can then say, well, let's elaborate, let's work on these, and you go for more and more. Its generational capacity is just unbelievable. And I think, in a sense, that I was getting that from what Holly said before as well. And I want to pick up on Jenny's point about the gaps. I think there's a real danger of divisions in societies between those people who either don't believe in it, are skeptical about it, don't want to, or those people who never have the opportunity to work with it, to explore it. And I'm talking now about paid versions, which are so much more advanced than the free versions. We're going to have huge splits in society. And this is civilizational and societal level challenges that we're going to be confronted with. And I can't imagine how we can begin to address those. But I think the first step for me is always trying to understand how this thing works. And that's about understanding in our own contexts, which I think is what the aim of the inquiry was all about, really. So we're now better informed to appreciate these things, I think. Certainly I am than I was 3 months ago.
So we've done some experiments that have informed with the various AI apps and tools, and this is our learning that we've been talking about. Valerie, I think you were signaling.
Yeah, I was just going to say two things struck me in terms of I'm in that space of education, both as a teacher and as a student. I'm at the business end of finishing a doctorate, and the college is very concerned about, what this looks like and who's using what and where. So there's, in one way amongst the cohort, there's a kind of a secrecy, because nobody wants to quite say, in case it's public, that I've used X, Y, and Z. But I did come across one lecturer who got in front of it and actually gave the students an assignment purposely to be answered by AI, whatever format they were using. Said, go and input this and get the answer. But the assignment then was to fact check, to go back and take that assignment. And again, I don't know if the purpose was to try and get ahead, but I think they were just acknowledging this is here, this is what this will look like. So trying to find ways, not around it, but ways of working with it, and encouraging the students to look at that critical thinking piece and to remind them, yes, this gave you an answer, but it is possible that when you fact check or you go elsewhere or you look, you might find that everything that you got isn't quite so correct. And the second point I was going to ask, I'm curious, has anybody here corrected the response they got from AI? Have you gone back? I've done it myself where I've gotten a piece of information and I've typed back in and said, no, that's incorrect. It might have been a policy document or something where they said this is the current one when I knew it wasn't. And I know we're all helping in that input, but it was quite interesting to back and say, you're wrong, and the dialogue that occurred when I went back and said, I haven't done it too often, but gone back and said, no, actually, this is incorrect. I need you to recheck that. So that's an interesting piece as well.
Yeah.
Norman, you wanted to say?
Yeah, can I say, lots of times it's, you should challenge AI. I mean, the thing I just talked about, I asked it to review my own practice and I told it to be critical about it. And it came up with one thing, which was I leaned towards over and over again towards productivity. Right. Okay. The next day I was working with it and I could see in its opening questions, because I've asked it already to ask questions so it understands context. And I could see that at the end of this process, I was being nudged into production mode. So I said, hang on a minute. You have encouraged me now to go into production mode. And at the same time, you're criticizing me for not exploring openly a particular problem. And it accepted that. And we went through it. And out of that came a better prompt for me to put into its own memory bank so that it stopped doing that. Effectively, it didn't drive my inquiries down a productive route. It allowed for space initially to explore in a very open way. So that was, for me, a really important part of learning how to work with AI. And yes, you have to challenge it.
Yeah. I asked probably Claude about some new legislation, the Renters' Rights bill, and it came back very confidently. And I said, I don't know that is that really right, that bit? And it came back and said, well, it is a bit of a grey area. And, so there were some admissions. So it's interesting. That sounds more human than we thought.
I applied for a job thinking about this, that it said it was for anyone that would want to work with AI correcting, I think it was Valerie that was saying, regarding human resources, correcting or giving it a more national voice, so to speak. So they were interested in where you were from. And I had an interview with the AI. So I was interviewed by it for this job. I didn't get it, by the way. So I think I was too critical. And it was asking me about the things that I would be giving as an input. They would be giving me things and I would be correcting or giving it a humanized voice in order to educate to a Chilean or South American voice, so to speak. So it would look more like someone that would be answering in that way. And at the end, the AI said, would you please tell me whether my interview was okay? What would you criticize me about? It was funny because I was not expecting that, because I knew it was an AI thing, but I'd never had an interview with someone in a job that would say, did you like my interview? And because I was surprised, and this is ridiculous, but I don't want to give up a lot of information. I said, yes, you're fine.
Okay. So we're running rapidly out of time. I wondered, I mean, the whole focus, we've talked about what's come out of this, and I think there's a lot of different things have come out of this. And for me, it's given me a lot to think about for the next thing we're going to be doing, and what I'm going to be doing in my own sphere. But this was about living well with AI. Has anybody got a 1 or 2 word kind of, slogan about how to live well with AI? Because that's what we were really looking at, and we've found some things we're really worried about, and we've found some things that we're really quite pleased and intrigued by. But living well with AI, what does that mean? What would we say? But there's really literally only time for short comments. Any thoughts?
I like braided. I feel that it's a braided intelligence.
Yes.
Because remember that there are people behind AI. And when we get AI, it's because for years and years and years, people have constructed it. And it's not just engineers, there are neuroscientists, there's a whole pool of people that come together. So it's not just, you know, the ICT techies. No, there's a whole group of people from different domains that come together to create it. So I think braided just means, you know, just it's like a fabric. And
Yeah.
of course, fabric can break. It
Yeah.
depends. You pull one string and then you get, you know.
Yeah. Well,
I
you've
would say be a good pilot, become a good pilot, in the sense that I was speaking previously.
yes.
Be a good pilot. So it means follow your values, be conscious, and maybe this is the challenge for humans, to become very conscious about what you give as input. So it may be a breakthrough regarding make yourself a better person to give the better input in whatever you're doing.
Yes, thank you. A couple of good ones. Jenny?
Trying to put a positive spin on the well-being, I would say healthy skepticism.
Yeah. Yes. Norman?
I think there's no single answer. I think everyone's got to invent it for themselves in whatever context and circumstances they have, but they have to put effort into it. They've got to learn how to use it and what it means to them, and when it's most appropriate to use it and when it's not.
Yes, maybe we should have had that health warning with social media.
Yeah.
But we didn't, did we? We drifted into it. So, okay, unless anybody has another burning thing to add,
Pip is saying embrace healthy curiosity.
Sorry, Pip. Healthy curiosity. Yeah. Sorry, I was glancing around the room, so to speak.
And living well with AI, for me, it's kind of creating that time to learn, and just be curious.
Yeah. All very good, very nice. And time, unfortunately, is probably where we are at the moment. We're running rapidly out of time. So I found this really rich in terms of ideas and very different views, and from very different experiences, some interesting similarities or contrasts coming out. So thank you, everybody, for offering what you offered today. And do you want to say something more, Norman, about
Yeah, well, first to thank you, Melissa, for not only this meeting, but all 3 meetings that you've chaired in such a fantastic way and enabled us to get a lot out, because we've been able to share what we think and feel. That's been brilliant. But just at the next step, we'll try and create the next issue, which is now issue 29 of LifeWide magazine, and everybody will be invited to share their perspectives on the process and where they are with it. And it's always a work in progress, but that is important. Work in progress is better than no work in progress. So it's a good thing to do. So thank you.
Yes, okay. Thank you to everybody for your time today, and we look forward to hopefully reading your contributions or seeing you in another context, in another inquiry, perhaps in the future. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Melissa.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Take
Bye.
care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.